Just so everyone knows, the new manual for this particular project is now called Communicating on Video. Communicating on television is for the old folks who can.
Thank you, thank you.
Welcome to the new talk show called. Well, how well have I done on television so far? Welcome to the new talk show called.
You can get a job on Global anytime.
What's the title of my speech?
The lifestyles of Big and Loquacious.
Yes, welcome to the talk show, Lifestyles of the Big and Loquacious. Big being Elmer, and loquacious being talkative. Now, tonight, we have a special loquacious individual. Elmer Thiessen has been in Toastmasters for a great many of years, and he's been known to vagabond between all the clubs in Toastmasters. However, we're going to learn a different side of Elmer Thiessen tonight. Elmer actually does a lot of work in woodworking. And tonight we're going to delve into that part of Elmer's lifestyle. Elmer, when did you first get involved in woodworking?
Actually, when you ask that question, I would have to say in middle school, grade 7, when I had my first class. But I got more seriously involved when I first got married because you have to help around the house.
And when you do your projects, what kind of wood do you use?
Well, now, that's a very difficult question because that really depends on the project. There are, I'm going to say, 4 different kinds of woodworkers. A carpenter builds houses or sheds, or there I would probably use something like fir. On the other hand, if I was building a fence, it would be more like cedar. I happen to be more of a joiner, which means I build cabinetry, furniture, toys, and I love oak. I love oak. I'm also a wood burner and carver, which means I do artistry by wood burning. And there, you want to use a very soft wood that's very light in color, probably a pine, because dark woods, like Honduras mahogany, you just can't see what you're doing. And then there's the people who work with lathes, called the turners. They love oak. I love their work, but I don't do it. So that's avoiding the question, perhaps, or maybe not.
No, but that's absolutely fine. In fact, maybe you could describe some of the tools that you actually use for each of the different types of projects.
My projects or the projects, the 4 projects that I've mentioned?
How about your projects?
My projects. I have a full 2-car garage workshop with a 240 volt table saw, because the 110 simply chokes too often. I also have routers, sanders, thickness planers, jointers, drills, bandsaws, a variety of tools.
Sounds like
Really.
you have quite a large number of tools that you have. Once you buy the tools, you're set for life, or what about the replacement of the tools? How frequently do you have to replace them?
Tools can last many years. Most of the tools have pieces on them, such as saw blades or drill bits that need sharpening quite regularly and can wear out. So it really depends on the circumstances. Sanding tools, of course, sanding discs wear out all the time.
How about the safety equipment that you're using when you're doing this?
There are 3 major pieces of safety equipment that I use, and I'll have to admit that I don't always use them all, but I still have my fingers. Ear muffs for sound. Eye protection, very important. And dependent upon the kind of painting you're doing, you're going to want to use some kind of breath or nose protection for breathing.
Have you had any serious accidents when dealing with woodworking yourself?
Well, there was the day that I was trying to work on my daughter's residence, putting in some baseboard. And I had set the saw blade at 45 degrees so that I could work around corners. But since this wasn't my workshop, I wasn't quite familiar with it. So I had some very careless work where, although I had turned the blade off, I hadn't waited for it to stop spinning before I reached for the wood. And I still have a scar on my little finger that says, I tried shaking hands with a moving saw blade and it doesn't work.
Well, I see you've brought some examples of your work here. Can you bring them up on the table and show them to us?
A good woodworking club sometimes has competitions. To begin with, one of the competitions we used to have, we called a 2x4 challenge, where each member is given one piece of 8-foot 2x4. You are allowed to use that wood, no other wood, no substitutions, and that's it. If you ruin the wood, your project's finished. Would you believe this briefcase is a 2x4 challenge? A simple knife block. This happened to be another 2x4 challenge. I made 4 of these out of one 8-foot 2x4. Want to pass that one around just for laughs?
I'll bring this around to the audience.
This is a trivet. I put it on the stand and keeps the heat from going around. You kind of put your cuts about 51% of the depth of the wood so that you actually get holes in between. And in this case, I was going to give it to a lady I knew. And after I cut it, I never saw her again.
I'm sure Linda is disappointed. Again, we're going to pass this around to our live studio audience.
Wood burning. These are 2 different dogs that I used to have. A Great Pyrenees, which was about 150 pounds, and a Shih Tzu, which has the brains of a stone, about 10 pounds. And you'll notice it's much lighter wood.
Yes, it's
Light in color, not in weight.
right. And I was going to say, there's quite a bit of weight involved in these. If you use lighter woods, is that?
That helps. Hardwoods is much harsher on them. And this is what's called relief carving, which is 3-dimensional.
Very impressive.
Now, the one project I like, I tried to sell at the Granville Island Market. Used to have a store there, and I wanted to sell this. So they said you have to submit several items. In my opinion, that's a $300 item. And you'll never sell it. And I said, yes, you can. You don't sell it to the parents, you sell it to the grandparents. What I was impressed at is I was actually accepted at that challenge. with that knife block, if you make it in various different species and when you put them together, you can get all kinds of different, we'll sell that, but we won't sell this. I never did submit further.
So, I see you use glue as well. What kind of glue do you use for your woods?
I prefer to use a simple wood glue.
Would that be the Elmer's glue?
It does work, but it's a water-based glue. That way, if it streams when you're finishing it, you can wipe it clean before it dries. But it's a lot of fun.
Since we are out of time, I'd like to thank Elmer for being my guest on the lifestyles of the Big and Loquacious. And I would ask him to come back again and provide another story for us. Mr. Toastmaster.